بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is session 12 of our study on Nahw. We are still touching upon this first type of murakkab from the murakkab naqis, which is murakkab tawsifi. We mentioned in the beginning that when it comes to the murakkab tawsifi, the adjectival phrase, we have two components. We have the mawsuf and we have the sifa. The mawsuf is that or who which is being described, and the sifa is the adjective, the description itself. We mentioned at the beginning that the sifa is to mirror the mawsuf in four perspectives, in four ways. The first one in terms of i'rab, the second one in terms of nakir and ma'rifah, the third one in terms of being singular, dual or plural, meaning number, and the fourth one in terms of gender, meaning being masculine or feminine. This is going to be the last session related to this murakkab, and then we're gonna move on to the second type of murakkab naqis, which is murakkab idafi. This rule is a very peculiar rule because there can be a digression, or there can even be multiple digressions from the initial ruling that we learnt regarding this type of murakkab, that the sifa is to mirror the mawsuf in those four ways that we just mentioned. Okay, so over here we have a note that the mawsuf that is counted to be ghayr akil, right? So ghayr akil, plural. The adjective is generally singular feminine, although it is sometimes plural feminine. This is regardless of whether the mawsuf of is a masculine or feminine. So regardless if the mawsuf is a masculine or feminine, and the adjective is generally singular feminine, although it is sometimes plural feminine. So what's counted as a ghayr akil? What does it mean by ghayr akil? A ghayr akil is an unintelligent being. Okay, so what's counted as an unintelligent being? An unintelligent being is anything that is not a human, jinn, or angel. So if the mawsuf is counted as a ghayr akil, an unintelligent being is anything that is not human, jinn, or angel, then this rule will be activated, that the adjective is generally singular feminine, although it is sometimes plural feminine. We have some examples over here. So remember, keep in mind that initially we learned that the sifa is to mirror the mawsuf in four perspectives. In terms of i'rab, that's the first perspective. The second perspective in terms of being nakir or ma'rifah, meaning being indefinite or definite. That's the second perspective. The third perspective is in terms of number, meaning being singular, dual, or plural. That's the third perspective. The fourth perspective is in terms of gender, meaning being masculine or feminine. That's the fourth perspective. There's four possibilities that can be found. One of four of them are going to be found depending upon the scenario. The first one is that there's no digression. The second one is there's digression in gender only. The third one is that there's digression in number only. The fourth one is that there's digression in gender and number. Okay, so let's give some examples. Each one of these examples that we have over here will be an example of one of four of these, right? So we have four possibilities, right? So we have one example for each possibility. Okay, so let's look back at this. So the mawsuf that is counted to be a ghayr akil plural. Okay, so if you look at all of these examples, the mawsuf is counted as a ghayr akil, right? Because a ghayr akil is an intelligent being. So anything that is not human, jinn, or angel. So kutub is the plural of kitab, right? So we know kutub is a plural noun, right? Because it's the plural form of kitab, right? It's broken plural, correct? And kutub is counted as a ghayr akil plural because it's not counted as a human, jinn, or angel. So this rule will be activated, that the adjective is generally singular feminine, although it is sometimes plural feminine. We have two examples over here. So kutubun musannafa. So this is the mawsuf, this is the sifa. So the sifa over here, musannafa, which means compiled. Musannafa over here, if we were to analyze this, then we will notice that musannafa is singular. It's singular, but it's feminine. In terms of gender, it's feminine. We know this because it's got ta'u ta'nis, right? We mentioned that ta'u ta'nis is a sign of femininity. Is a sign of a noun being feminine. So musannafa is singular feminine. But then you have the mawsuf, which is the first component, which is plural masculine. This is interesting. That the mawsuf is plural masculine, and the sifa, which is musannafa, is singular feminine. So you can see there's a digression from the initial ruling, because the initial ruling said that the sifa is to mirror the mawsuf in four perspectives. There's a digression from two of those. The first perspective in which there's a digression is in terms of gender, because kutub is masculine, it's a masculine based noun. However, musannafa is a feminine based noun, so we know there's a digression in terms of gender. There's also a digression in this example in terms of number, because kutub is a plural and musannafa is a singular. Musannafa is a singular feminine based noun. So the sifa is singular feminine, but the mawsuf is plural masculine. So the sifa is not mirroring the mawsuf in these two ways, in terms of gender and in terms of number. So there's a digression going on from two perspectives, right? In terms of gender and in terms of number. So this will be counted as the fourth possibility, that there's a digression in gender and number. This mawsuf over here is treated like a singular feminine noun. Does that make sense? So this is the first example that's representing a case where there's a digression in both gender and number. Okay. So kutubul musannafa will mean compiled books. So over here we have kutub, which is a ghayr akil plural, right? It's not a human, jinn, or angel. And we have the sifa over here, that's singular feminine. So the rule is applied. This very peculiar rule is applied. So this is one example. Another example is kutubun musannafat. So kutub over here is the mawsuf, which means books. So we're using the same mawsuf over here. Right? This is plural. This is plural. Right? Same noun. Musannafat though, this is the plural form of this. This is the singular form, right? This is the plural form. So over here, if you look, right, in contrast to this, kutub is plural, musannafat is also plural. So the sifa is copying the mawsuf from that angle, from that perspective. But the sifa is not copying and mirroring the mawsuf in terms of gender. So this is an example where there's a digression in gender only. Then we have this example, ayatum bayyinah, ayatum bayyinah. So ayat, this is the mawsuf, bayyinah, this is a sifa. Ayat means signs, bayyinah means clear. So we have clear signs. This is how you would translate it. So ayat over here is the plural of ayah. It's the plural of ayah. So ayat is jama' muannath salim. Right? And bayyinah over here, which means clear, this is a singular feminine based noun. So over here you can see that there's a digression, but there's only one digression that's taking place in this example. There's only one digression that's taking place in this example, And the digression over here is in terms of number, because ayat is feminine and so is bayina. Bayina is also feminine. So the digression over here is only in terms of number. We know there's a digression in number from the initial ruling because ayat is plural and bayina is singular. If there was no digression, then the sifa will mirror the mawsuf from this angle, from this perspective, in terms of number. But we know that's not the case over here in this example, because ayat, like we said, is plural and bayina is singular. So this is the example that we have used in which there is a digression in number only. Now we have this final example, ayatum mayyinat. Ayatum mayyinat. Ayat is the mawsuf, just like ayat is the mawsuf over here. But we have bayinat as the sifa over here. In the last example before this, we have bayyina. Right? So this is a singular form. And this is the plural form. Bayinat. This is the plural form of bayyina. So if you analyze this, ayat is plural and feminine. Bayinat is also plural and feminine. So there's no digression going on over here. There's no digression at all. So in this kutubun musannafa example, there's two digressions. Right? There's two digressions from the initial ruling. The first digression is in terms of number, and the second digression is in terms of gender. In this second example that we have, kutubun musannafat, there's only digression in terms of gender. In this third example, ayatum mayyinah, there's only digression in terms of number. And ayatum bayyinat, there's no digression at all. So this is the ruling regarding ghayr akil plurals, when the mawsuf is counted as a ghayr akil plural. And what is counted as ghayr akil? Ghayr akil is an intelligent being, anything that is not a human, jinn, or angel. Now we have one more rule to cover before we end with this murakkab, which is murakkab tawsifi, is that some nouns are singular in form but refer to a whole group. These are called ismul jama'. They will generally be treated as plurals in sentences. So an example of this is qawmun. So when you have a nation, you have multiple individuals within that nation. So it's referring to a whole group. So because it's referring to a whole group, even though it's singular, it's going to be treated as a plural. Because it's going to be treated as a plural, and remember the sifa is to mirror the mawsuf in four ways, and one way is in terms of number, the sifa is going to be plural. Okay, it's going to be in plural form. Hence why the sifa over here, salihuna, okay, which is a plural, is in this form. It's not a singular form, right? It's not salihun, it's salihuna. So qawmun salihuna, a pious nation.